capital punishment and whether capital punishment should be abolished. So, though it is a part of your polity, but it is the probability of asking this question can be in your ethics paper where there is a theory of punishment. So first of all, what is capital punishment and whether capital punishment should be abolished? What position should we take on this particular issue? So let us start from the basics. The basic is capital punishment. Why capital punishment is called capital punishment? Capital means the highest punishment a state can give. So that is why it is called as capital punishment. Now, capital punishment, since a highest punishment a state can give, represent death penalty. So there is a debate whether death penalty should be abolished or it should be continued. What stand has to be taken in context of country like India? So we have to also understand why there is a death punishment. What is the logic behind the death punishment? So there are three theories of punishment. There are three theories of punishment. First is retributive, second is deterrence, and the third is reformative. Now, the retributive theory of punishment is based on the concept of revenge. You can say eye for eye. Fine. So, when the punishment is governed by the feeling of revenge, eye for eye, it is called retributive approach. So whether capital punishment should be continued in India or not, again we have to determine this on the basis of some principle. So one principle is eye for an eye, or the punishment based on the revenge. The next theory is deterrence. Fine. So deterrence means to deter, to prevent someone from committing certain act. So it is believed that if capital punishment is given, it will have a deterrence effect on others, and it will reduce the future crime. Now the third theory is reformative theory. We often associate it with Gandhi. In Indian context, though we can trace the roots of reformative theory. In fact, this question can come in essay also, because it is one of the eternal debates of India. So reformative theory, but we can trace it to the Socrates. Fine. And the Socrates dictum is virtue is knowledge. Virtue is knowledge basically means virtue is knowledge. Fine. So it can be written also that therefore vice is ignorance. Fine. So what does it mean? It means that what is virtue? Virtue is right conduct. And Socrates said that if people have the knowledge, the true knowledge, the knowledge of ethics, the knowledge of what is right and what is wrong, the knowledge of what is right and what is wrong, they will not commit errors. Now, what does it implies? That you do bad deeds because you are ignorant. So there is another philosopher as well as the student of Socrates which have influenced Gandhi a lot, that is both Plato and Aristotle. So Plato has held that states most important function is pedagogic. means the most important function of a state is to spread education, educate people about what is wrong and what is right. So somewhere when the people commits the heinous crimes, it is not just the fault of the person, it is a fault of us as a society as well as a state, that we have not been able to educate the people about the right conduct and the wrong conduct. What Socrates believed, that no one commits crime knowingly. No one commits crime knowingly means we commit crime out of ignorance. For example, you can say that no, you cannot say this for all people know that they are going to commit the crime. But Socrates says that even those persons who think that they are doing the right thing by committing a crime, for example, even those persons who think that they are doing the right thing in the interest or to please the God and commit the terrorist acts, even such persons are ignorant. They are not, you can say, they do not know the true knowledge that committing the crime is not satisfying their soul, and they are under the illusion of rhetorics, or they are being brainwashed. So this school of thought believes that if person has true knowledge that this particular act is wrong, then that person will never commit as a crime. So when one person does the heinous acts like taking somebody's life or raping somebody or killing the innocent civilians, it is not just that person is a criminal. Somehow we all are involved, because as a state and as a society we also fail. So we have to take a part of the moral responsibility too. Anyway, there are different debates on the capital punishment. At present, if we say that we are living in the age where human rights are being at least recognized in principles, so Universal Declaration of Human Rights and international human rights treaties, they always suggest to abolish torture or torturous punishments, and capital punishment can be considered as one of the most torturous punishment. You know that the human rights concept had come after the experience of Hitler's torture of the Jews and other minorities and the vulnerable section. So there is also an international convention against the continuation of the torture. Now, as the civil rights movements and human rights movements have become more proactive, what we see that around the world there is a global trend either to abolish capital punishment or to put, or to, you can say, stay capital punishment. Fine. So there is a global consensus in favor of ending the capital punishment because it is one of the most inhuman and the torturous. So now let us come to talk in context of India. So if we talk in context of India, so India is still having the system of capital punishment. However, we can say that unlike many other countries around us, for example, China, Iran, Pakistan, the number of capital punishments in India is quite less, and as per the judicial doctrine, the capital punishment is given in India only in the rarest of the rare cases, rarest of the rare case, the doctrine pronounced by Supreme Court in Bachan Singh case and in Machi Singh case, where it has also given it in a more elaborate form. So now, what is the right approach in context of India, whether a capital punishment should be continued or should be abolished? If I talk from my perspective, what should be the basis for the continuation of the capital punishment, or what should be the basis of the theory of punishment? From my perspective, a single theory is not sufficient, and a theory of punishment needs to take into account all the three perspectives. Fine. So when I look from the perspective of, or the question of, the capital punishment, I believe that our views cannot be guided by the single perspective of the deterrence or the retribution or reformation. Rather, all the three perspectives have to be combined to decide what should be our approach with respect to capital punishment. Normally, it is said that people, they abhor or they believe that retribution should not be the basis for any punishment. Some people believe that deterrence has no empirical basis, that people are really deterred because of capital punishment, and some people believe in the reformative approach. Now, we cannot, like retribution is one of the oldest principle of punishment, and we cannot completely ignore the retributive aspect of any punishment, because retributive basis means what? retributive basis means revenge. Revenge as a theory of punishment. From my perspective, we cannot altogether ignore revenge as the basis of punishment, because revenge or retribution has to be seen also from the perspective of the member of the family of bereaved. It is a very natural sentiment, and nothing can fill the vacuum when a member of a family loses his life because of the failure of the law and order or whatsoever. So I don't think there can be any pure theory of punishment or a theory of punishment which does not include the element of revenge. But we have to decide what proportion do we want in going for including the element of revenge in our theory of punishment. So retributive theory not, or you can say, cannot be rejected altogether, because we all are human beings and revenge is very natural sentiment, and we are not gods, and there has to be something to compensate the loss to the family of bereaved. You can give monetary compensation, but that is not going to satisfy. We can see the case of Nirbhaya, and if we talk about her mother's perspective on the entire issue, so she is identifying any ordinary person in India or around the world having these very natural sentiments. So obviously we cannot ignore the element of revenge altogether, which is a very important emotion in our mind. So some amount, while deciding capital punishment to continue or not, we cannot ignore the perspective of the family who has lost their near and dear ones. Now, let us come to the logic of deterrence. Though deterrence is such supported or is seen as the major theory or major basis to continue the punishment, and we can associate deterrence to Bentham. So Bentham believes that punishment should always be more than the pleasure which a person gets in committing a crime. Now, if we see the approach of judiciary in India, so judiciary in India continues deterrence or continues capital punishment as a deterrence, and it has given the logic that capital punishment should be continued in society like India as a deterrence. However, the studies conducted around the world show there is no logic between reduction in the crime and deterrence. So up till now, there is no empirical basis to support this particular theory, but we are continuing with this theory in case of India. Now, deterrence logic in India with respect to capital punishment. So in this context, it is said that continuation of deterrence or continuation of capital punishment on the logic of deterrence is not a very sound logic in case of India, because Supreme Court has also given the doctrine of rarest of the rare, means death penalty will be given in the rarest of the rare circumstances. So when you go for logic of deterrence, suppose when we go for the logic of deterrence in case of nuclear weapons, the deterrence will apply against the other party only when the other party is convinced that there will be a massive retaliation. And deterrence will never work if the other party knows that it will be done in the rarest of the rare circumstances. So rarest of the rare doctrine may be having its relevance, but rarest of the rare doctrine limits or it impacts, or you can say it adversely impact the entire logic of the deterrence. Because if capital punishment, if a criminal knows that the capital punishment is rarest of the rare, then it will hardly act as deterrence. And now the third theory, that is a reformative theory of punishment, because this particular theory, maybe it is a sound theory, but the stage of development in which we are, it is very difficult to convince the people, or it is very difficult to implement this particular theory in totality. So reformation should be the aim. So reformation of the soul should be the aim. Undoubtedly, because somewhere when a person commits a crime, it is not just that person committing a crime, because man is not an abstract individual. Man lives in a society, and somewhere the social, cultural environment also is responsible. For example, if I talk about the rape crimes in India, the continuation of the rape crime in India has also to do considerably with the continuation of the patriarchal values of Indian society, where you do not give respect to the dignity of the woman. So you always require the holistic solutions. Now, so whether if the question is whether capital punishment should continue in India, this is first question. The second question is whether capital punishment should be restricted in case of crimes like terrorism or act of terror, fine, or genocide. So we have to decide what should be our approach in addressing these questions. So one approach is that of Supreme Court's approach, which says that one should go for the rarest of the rare. But if I talk from my perspective respecting the approach of the Honorable Supreme Court, I can support the idea of abolishing capital punishment. Now, when I say abolishing the capital punishment, I am not getting emotional. This is not on the basis of emotional. This is not on the basis of Gandhian morality, etc. Why I support the view that capital punishment should be abolished is purely on rational basis. Fine, not on any emotional or ethical basis. This is not at all consideration, and actually in my perspective there has to be the zero tolerance towards crime plus you cannot eliminate the element and importance of revenge. Now, you may find my statements inherently contradictory, that on one hand I am supporting abolishing the capital punishment. I even support abolishing capital punishment for all. On the other hand, I am also suggesting the zero tolerance towards the acts of crime or like terrorism or whatsoever, as well as I am also supporting that a theory of punishment must include the element of revenge, because we do not understand the value, or you do not estimate the loss of a family, and that has to take into consideration. Now it is up to the family whether after certain time, if the wounds are healed and family itself suggests to give mercy, but the primacy has to be given to the member of the families of the bereaved. Now, my statement, as I said, may appear paradoxical, that on one hand I am saying zero tolerance, but on the other hand I am also saying the continuation of the capital punishment. Now, why capital punishment should be abolished in India? The logical basis is in India we can say that still we lack the robust criminal justice system. We lack the robust law enforcement system. We have not yet implemented the police reforms recommended by Supreme Court in Prakash Singh case. So in India, because there are loopholes in our criminal justice system, and this has been accepted by the government when government has set up Malimat committee, and Malimat committee has given its report when Supreme Court time and again refers to Prakash Singh case related to police reforms. So somewhere we have to accept that something is wrong somewhere. In this context, there is a possibility that the innocent persons may wrongly convicted, and there are number of evidences of this that high courts have also accepted, that number of times there has been an error because of various reasons. Now, because our criminal justice system is yet not robust and it has been accepted even by Supreme Court, High Court, as well as the Parliament, and everybody time and again talks about the need for the reform. Along with that, we also know that our judicial system is heavily tilted in favor of the rich and powerful. Though government has instituted legal services under NALSA, etc., yet the type of equity that should exist in access to justice is yet not existing in case of India. So ultimately, justice is being fair, and so far our institutional robustness is lacking. Fine. So we need the institutional robustness of our criminal justice system. It is essential that we should replace the capital punishment with life imprisonment. So I am giving this view not on the basis of any morality or emotion, but because there should not be any murder by the state. Fine. So if innocent person is given capital punishment, it will tantamount to be the murder by the state, which is not acceptable in any modern society. Hence, it is very essential that we should seriously think about the state, about the continuation, because life is one such thing which cannot be given back. Hence, considering the state of the state of the criminal justice system in India, it is much better if we shift the capital punishment into the life imprisonment. Fine. So life imprisonment gives an opportunity that in future, if somebody is found innocent, we can correct our mistake. Plus, we are also giving an opportunity of reforming. As Gandhi said, hate the sin and not the sinner. And even life imprisonment can also heal the element of revenge, or can also serve this revenge element of the punishment. It serves the reformative element, and directly or indirectly it can also serve the deterrence angle, and it saves India's state from committing any such crime, and it enhances, or it will upgrade India's stature in the community of the nations. Fine. So it is going to enhance India's stature in international community, and it will strengthen India's candidature even for the permanent seat of UN Security Council. So life imprisonment is going to be a win-win situation. It will take into account the current realities, and it also provides the benefits and addresses the concerns of the various stakeholders in the system. So we should be thinking, but whether capital punishment should be replaced with life imprisonment, it is essential that there is a country-wide debate, and we can always say that there is no basis to make a discrimination between the ordinary persons and those who are booked under the Terror Act. Judiciary itself in many previous judgments, including Shatrughan Chauhan case, has held that, or a Khullar case has held that there is no basis to make a discrimination, and hence our position should also be that we should not be differentiating in case of such type of crimes. But obviously for such a sensitive debate, for such a sensitive issue, a country-wide logical debate, informed debate is also needed. So hopefully after this discussion you will be equipped to write answer on the question of capital punishment. Now let us have some facts. Capital punishment primarily based on principle of retributive justice. Europe is almost a death penalty free. China has the largest number of crimes, largest number of executions. In South Asia, Nepal and Bhutan have abolished the capital punishment. 103 countries have abolished. Top 10 countries include China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Egypt, US, Pakistan, Somalia, South Sudan and Yemen. Fortunately, we are not there because our Supreme Court has held that it can be given only in the rarest of the rare. Now, UN has also held that the death penalty has no place in 21st century. UN General Assembly resolutions also recommend to abolish the death penalty. There have been resolutions where large number of countries have called for moratorium on the capital punishment, though India has not been a part of it. Now, Bachan Singh case versus State of Punjab case, where judiciary has given its doctrine of rarest of the rare, and in Machi Singh case it has given elaborately what are the conditions to consider what is rare and rare. So the initial guidelines given in Bachan Singh case is rarest of the rare is when the crime is of grave nature. While deciding rarest of the rare, circumstances will also matter, and rarest of the rare is one case where life imprisonment appears inadequate. Now in Machi Singh case, they have given 5 definite categories. The manner in which murder has been committed, extremely brutal, grotesque. Motive, when the murder is committed for a motive which is completely depraved, which is antisocial. Magnitude of the crime and personality of the murder, when the victim of the murder is an innocent child, a helpless woman, old person and others.